I was just wondering, I was having this thought about, would it be possible for me to exist after my death as an AI so I could just do the show every day, even beyond this world? And I thought, it's probably possible. They have the ability to do that. There's an AI that I could create that would be my image, my likeness, and then you could throw in all of the astrological stuff, and then you could do some machine learning about my past, my experiences. It probably wouldn't miss a beat, although it wouldn't be very interactive. Who knows? Maybe it could learn on its own and become semi-sentient. There's a story that Franz Kafka did. It's a short story. It's a really strange short story. We have a message already. Is the mic is fuzzy? Well, we got an issue with the audio. That's why. There's an issue with the audio. And it's because StreamYard my audio is okay. Yeah, it's StreamYard. I'm sorry. I hate to pass this off, but it is what it is. Anyway, there's this short story by Franz Kafka, and it has to do with this guy who dies, but he can't move on to the afterlife because I forget what the reason was. People had all these images of him or something, but like they kept him around. It was like because he had all of these images of who he was, he was unable to be freed from his images that other people held of him. So I feel like having a living AI would possibly be something like that. Or like your soul wouldn't be able to rest because there'd be a part of you that be still existing on this plane. I mean, even though it wasn't really part of you, but it was still kind of a synthetic clone. So anyway, this is just a thought that I had because I'd like to take a morning off of it. No, I'm just kidding. Here, switching on clone mode. Or AI mode. I hate the AI voice. And what's happening is it's becoming clear that AI content is starting to pollute YouTube like a red algae bloom. It's really difficult to navigate when you see something interesting. And you can always hear there's about 3 or 4 voices that are like these AI agents. And they'll get tripped up on certain words because somebody's typing out a script. So what they're doing, here's what's going on with YouTube. You have companies that are building AI videos, like documentaries, and they know exactly where to get you. They get you at about, I think the ideal video length is at 14 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So everything they do is going to be 14 minutes or less. And it'll be something like, let me see. 6 old actors from Hollywood who were a lot more racy than you thought, right? And so you're like, oh, well, let me find out who these people were, even though most of the time you already know who they are. So you put them on, and then there's this very long kind of wind up. And then they finally get to one person. Number one, James Dean. And then they'll have a whole kind of backstory for James Dean. And they'll go through like 6 of them. You'll get to 6, but the amount of content that they use, or the amount of script that they use to stretch it out is significant, because you could say it a lot faster, a lot more efficiently. But they have to do it in order to make sure they keep you on there for the algorithm, right? And so that you eventually get to the 6th person. But that's what they're doing. And all those scripts, those are AI generated scripts as well. So you just type in something like James Dean, sex life, actor, Hollywood secrets, and the AI will go in and it will create a rough script. And then you go in, you clean it up, maybe spend about, I don't know, 10 minutes. Maybe they actually have a tool. I'm sure there's a tool. It's sort of like, because people would have that as part of their AI editing suite, and they go in to clean it up. And then the next thing you know, they've got the script. That's all going to be translated into voice. So you have that, and then you could use the AI to go out and find images. And the weird thing about some of these is that they're really duplicitous. That's the word I would use. They're really duplicitous. Because, again, it was one of those videos, like, who was like 6 of the most scandalous men in Hollywood, right? And they're showing a lot of James Garner. I'm like, I never heard this about James Garner, so let me listen to it. They haven't even talked about James Garner. They'll have maybe, I don't know, 20 seconds of total of 5-second various clips of James Garner going through the start of the video. And it's like, oh, James Garner's one of these? And then you get to the end 14, 15 minutes later, and there's nothing about James Garner. And this is the duplicitous nature of how content is being created. And it's gonna get even worse, because all they're caring about is getting paid on YouTube. YouTube, I think, needs to have, and I think David brought this up, YouTube needs to have a watermark. So if somebody is presenting AI-generated content, that you know it. That there should be an AI stamp on anything that is AI. Just like there should be something that tells you your fruit or your vegetable is genetically modified, but they don't. Anyway, these are just random thoughts that I'm having here in the morning. But I can't stand it. I can't stand the AI voice. I can't stand the AI documentaries. I mean, this is like first level of resentment. There's more. There's more. There's second level resentment. And it's not me. So there's somebody that I know that I'm not going to, they don't watch the show anyway. And they were, connecting with me as a friend and asked me about astrology. And if you know me, you're my friend, whatever, I'll tell you stuff. It's not like we're having a long-term sort of sit down and trying to solve your problems. So I'd like you, I'll share what I know. It's not a big deal. And this person has been using ChatGPT for all their astrology now. Like, it's like, okay, I don't really need to ask a human. I can do this myself. Well, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it feels like it's changed the tenor of how we relate, right? I almost feel like I've been replaced on a social level, not even a professional level, but replaced on a social level by AI. It's really weird. And we're just starting to see the beginning effects of how this thing is. Now they have now they have AI that checks to see if students are doing their papers in AI. So we're already in sort of the war of artificial intelligence. That's where we're at, the war of artificial intelligence. And I think we're just getting started. Anyway, how is everybody? How are we going? How are we feeling going into this eclipse? This is going to be an interesting eclipse for yours truly, as it almost lands in Olga Corbett landing, a Nadia Comaneci landing right on my sun sign. One day later would be sticking the landing. So with semi-bated breath, I await this eclipse. Yeah, but the interesting thing is I was born on an eclipse. So let the good times roll. Come on, Charlie, let the good times roll. Come on, baby. Yeah, generally my experience with eclipses has been wait and see. I don't like to go into something with a sense of dread or predestination, because if something is going to happen, it's going to happen. And there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Oh, well, why don't I just wrap myself in bubble wrap and not go out? That's not going to work. That's not really a strategy to deal with an eclipse. So whatever will be, que sera, sera. But, if we're looking at it from a global perspective, I think this is an interesting time as we head into the winter. I have this sneaking suspicion that we're going to be dealing with some kind of health crisis again. Because that's really, like, if you go back and you look at the eclipse in 2019, which I believe was in Leo, if I'm not mistaken, 2019. I have to go back and look. During that eclipse in 2019, it was in August of 2019, so it must have been Leo. And Heather Eland and I were doing a show, and it was on the eclipse. And I was looking at where, a lot of times we often like disregard where an eclipse is actually happening, which I think is important as well. And during that time, 2019, that eclipse was in China. It was in the southern part of China. Clearly, it was in Taiwan, or Hong Kong, rather. And another town that the eclipse was near was a town or a city called Wuhan. And I remember Heather and I looking at this eclipse and feeling like something major was going to happen or come out of China itself. And of course, that was when you had all these student uprisings going on in Hong Kong, which was kind of a color revolution in some ways. Sure. And the only way you could stop those students, remember all the umbrellas and stuff? The only way you could stop them was if you actually shut the entire country down. And how would you do that? You would do that by implementing something on a major scale, like an eclipse. And so I remember we were talking about this eclipse. We were talking about China, and I felt like it had something directly to do with Hong Kong, which ultimately it did. But I would say that we were pretty over the target. Now that was in, if I'm not mistaken, again, late Leo, that eclipse during Leo season. Yeah, because that's when the nodes, I think, were nodes. They go into Gemini, Sag, uh, right around. I'd have to go back. They go into Gemini, Sag in 2020, so they're coming out of Cancer, Capricorn. So it must have been a Cancerian eclipse. I'd have to go back. Although I'm pretty sure it was Leo. Anyway, something happened, right? Something distinct happened to China, to Wuhan, and that was right around the same time they had those military games where supposedly all these people got sick and brought back the Wuhan flu. Again, I'm just giving you a sequence of events, not necessarily a full detailed summary. So I feel like this eclipse has a lot to do with health. And I feel like that's where that's where it's going. And I would not be surprised if we are set for some kind of variant of some kind of a lockdown. Because what you've been seeing, this has nothing to do with eclipse. This is more along the lines of what's been going on just in general. So yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a Gemini, of course, suggested that we break the country up. And that's a real hot topic for people. And some people would be happy not living with the blue states or the blue people. And some people would be happy not living with the red states and the red people. And they'd be thrilled to break up the United States. Isn't that part of the plan? House divided that falls. I think it's probably going to happen. And if it doesn't happen by some kind of political realignment, it'll happen geologically. Anyway, I don't want to get too far wrapped up in the rabbit hole. Let's get into the weather. Let's do that. Thank you all for being here. I hope you are enjoying whoever you are, wherever you are, whoever you're with. Wow. It's the 16th of September. Hold on a second. Sure. I got the right skinny here. Hold on. We went to the gun show on Saturday. I like to look around. It's kind of cool. It's a local flavor. But you know what you run into there? You run into these really old guys. I mean, really, really old. And they're all about to go off to the old folks' home. And they're selling their collections. And it's really sad. It's like, these are the things that these guys have collected over all these years. So I think we're good here. Hold on. But you also meet some people with like really interesting stories. I met a Vietnam vet. We talked about Agent Orange, how it was everywhere. It's so fucked up. So fucked up. All right, I'll probably have to come out again because we know how this works. Try one more time. Here we go. All right. All right. Let's make me just a tad smaller. You know? And we'll zoom in a little bit so you guys at home can. Oh, that's not it. That's it. Okay. I will do my best to modulate at a stable pitch and frequency so you don't have to strain too hard to hear me. Here we are. The sun is in the final decan of Virgo. It is in the Taurus decan of Virgo. So things like money, resources become much more important under this transit. And the closer we get to this Sun, Saturn, Sun, Neptune opposition, really with the Sun going into Libra, right? That's going to be interesting to say the least. Well, I mean, from a big picture perspective, we're going to be in this weird inner zone for like a minute, right? When the sun is in late Libra, early Libra, it's still opposing Saturn in Pisces, and then Neptune in the retrograde motion. And it feels like I'm kind of getting put into the cart for the horse a little bit, but you can already see it start to happen. One of the things that I think will be also a byproduct of the eclipse, especially as it moves into Libra, is this whole idea of rights and speech. Because Libra is about being fair and balanced, and it has this built-in sense of equality. And one of the things that you're going to start to hear is that age-old dialogue. That it's not age-old; it's fairly new, actually. Hate speech versus free speech. That's what we'll be dealing with. And it's already starting to happen. Pam Bondi is starting to chirp that there's no room for hate speech. So we're watching events like this Charlie Kirk event, and it feels like Charlie Kirk is another 9/11. And of course, we know it happened on 9/10, but Charlie Kirk's another 9/11. And from 9/11, we had the Patriot Act, and the Patriot Act changed everything. Basically, it abrogated the Constitution. So we're in this crisis, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic crisis. Charlie Kirk dies. Wherever you land on that, he dies. Okay, he ain't coming back. Not unless there's like some grand ha-ha, all the cards are on the table moment, or he shows up as some strange character that we can't recognize. But we're not going there for now, because in order to move down the path that we're talking about, there can be no more Charlie Kirk. And we're in this really challenging inner zone because Pisces is always on the lookout for victims, victimization, martyrs. I mean, this goes hand in glove with Pisces. And Saturn is authority. And so when we have it in Pisces and it's retrograding, it's not very good, especially in this opposition. it's like the authorities, Saturn will tell you, well, we may have to remove some of your rights in order to make this safe. This is what happens. Neptune also getting into the mix is like it's like the secret sauce for martyrdom. That's what's what because Neptune represents martyrs, right? Like martyrs, scapegoats. You go back to Jesus, Age of Pisces, martyred, crucified. I mean, that's where it all starts. I'm sure there's some other. Chiron's a martyr, gives himself up for Prometheus. Chiron is an early precursor of Christ. Anyway, I feel like on a social level, out there level, that these oppositions don't bode well. From a personal level, I think that this is a time where if you were to ask people how confident they are about their lives, I'm sure if you ran across a Christian, you'd get the Christian confidence, which is, unshakable, unflappable, firm believer in Jesus Christ, goes to church every single day, and builds their faith like a muscle. There are people who have that, by the way. And some of them are not insufferable. Some of them are. And some of them are not insufferable. If you're a Muslim, you could have the same thing. You could be a complete true believer. And, the will of Allah, right? If you do that, you're praying, 3 times? I mean, that's what all that's about. That's about entrainment. It's about entrainment of remembering that you are a humble servant, right? That's what that's all about. Well, it could be about something else, but I don't want to fatwa against me. Is that what you call it? I don't fatwa. Whatever Salman Rushdie did. Anyway, this is so. I would say that confidence in people in general is I would say it's at an all-time low. All-time low. And I mean, we could just check these boxes. Inflation, cost of things, the price of things, consumer confidence, spending. No, it's not there. You can be confident that whatever you go to get, the next time you get it, it'll be more. You can be confident about that. But this is just part of it, right? And then it's sort of like if the structures of the world begin to fray, then how confident are we in general? Now, it's not always easy to separate ourselves out from that. But I think that this is going to be the yoga. And it's going to be difficult. And especially as we're going, I mean, I think this eclipse is pretty significant, particularly since it's happening around the autumnal equinox, where we are supposed to have perfect balance, right? That one day where, you know how they do the egg thing, right? So I feel like that we're dealing with 2 separate issues. We're dealing with the eclipse, and I'll devote more time this week during these shows to the eclipse. I feel like that's probably a good thing. I can talk about it all week, which is a good run-up. But it's not just that, it's the planets in opposition. So I would say, by and large, what we're looking at here, just with the opposition, That's shaky ground. That is shaky ground. Today we got a yod, and that yod is with Venus and Mars. Ooh, look at that. Nice sextile, so good rapport between the sexes. But over here, we have Neptune, and there's something that's not quite complete. There's something that's not quite fleshed out yet. Right? It's not quite fleshed out. There's things about relationships that are kind of murky. Now, it won't last very long. Well, 29, 0, so 3 days. And Mars is at the same degree, so we have an exact sextile. So I would say that the benign version of this inconjunct is two people trying to figure out how they fit together. And then sort of moving through their fears, their deception, their illusion, right? Delusion. It's a good thing we don't have anything major except Eclipse. But that's not until another 5 days. So this yod will barely be out of the yod. So we're basically going out of the yod and into the eclipse. That's lovely. That is just lovely. We still have the Mars-Jupiter square, and it's still going on, and it's still, it's like one of these oil well fires that just don't go out. And that's what it feels like. And it feels like whatever happened with Charlie Kirk and how and whatever happened to Charlie Kirk, it's not going away because people are using it, they're politicizing it. It's become a point of consternation. There's no resolution. I mean, the whole thing, the weird thing about Charlie Kirk, too, is that he is not a member of the government. And it's interesting that Charlie Kirk did not wind up with a position in the Trump administration. Don't you think that that's interesting? And what's interesting is that his name never came up. Well, he's doing so much good with TPUSA. His name never came up. And yet he's kind of being treated like a head of state or like somebody who was part of the state. Isn't his body going to be interred in Washington? Is that going to happen? People I've heard that. I'm not sure if that's absolutely true. But there's no resolution here. And that Mars-Jupiter square is still raging. Today we have the Moon-Jupiter conjunction. People are highly, highly emotional. Highly emotional. Did I say it again? We're feeling highly, highly emotional. The Jupiter is the amplifier. So it's amplifying this not so, I would call it prickly, irascible. I know yesterday was Monday, but today feels more like a Monday than yesterday does. Maybe it's because it's my Monday. I don't know. I just it feels like people want to be somewhere else. And then we have Mars coming in and squaring Pluto. I don't want to be Mr. Downer. There's some good stuff happening. I know a lot of people go, geez, why did I watch that? I want to give those to feel good. Well, you've got the sextile with Saturn and Uranus. The sextile with Saturn and Pluto. Saturn's retrograde. Pluto's retrograde. Uranus is retrograde. maybe you could go back to college. Go back and get some training in something. Maybe that would be helpful with these retrogrades. Saturn sextile could also be helpful with sorting things out with your resources or money. But it requires forensics, legwork. You may even have to hire a professional. That wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. The Saturn Uranus sextiles are they're about adapting, technology or things that tend to be a bit more advanced and mainstreaming them. Here's what I think. I think one of the headlines you'll come across in the next couple of days are people training their replacements. I saw this commercial yesterday, and it was these two executives talking about the efficiency of AI. And it was a weird commercial, but they were talking about all the things that AI could do. And AI can do this. It was Josh. And so they would see Josh. And it's like this weird, they were trying to make this weird connection to this human character and AI. It was really kind of awkward, actually. So there's this weird characterization between the human, of course, Josh happens to be black. And this woman's touting how user-friendly AI is, how efficient it is. But the guy keeps using the word efficient, and she keeps kind of going, talking around him. And then and then there's another instance about AI being efficient and Josh, and they see the same guy on a different level of the stairs, and it's really weird. And it's like, did we just see him? So the deeper meaning of the commercial is anybody can be Josh, and Josh can be anywhere. Josh can be ubiquitous. And I'm like, this is a really weird commercial. So it feels to me like one of the things that with all these retro, Saturn Uranus, it's like training your replacement. We have Venus coming in and squaring Uranus, Venus and Virgo, where perfection is demanded. I believe it's in its fall. Venus in Pisces is exalted, isn't it? Venus and Virgo in its fall. Tough position for Venus. Nobody's ever right. Nobody's ever perfect enough when you have Venus and Virgo. That's a tough placement for Venus. However, if you happen to find somebody who's a no-frills, cut to the chase, efficient mate, you're right in your wheelhouse. So that's coming. And then even though it's not a Mercury retrograde, I think a lot of misunderstanding in interpersonal relationships. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you tread very carefully with text and email. Highly recommend. You're going to be very tempted to send things that you cannot get back. In fact, I just feel like in general, even if we have a grand trine today, what about the grand trine? Sun, Uranus, Pluto. When the sun goes into zero Libra, we'll have a massive grand trine coming out of the eclipse, Sun, Pluto, Uranus. I like it, but I'd like it more if Uranus and Pluto were direct. They're not. So you can't really get the full weight of the grand trine. So for the next, I don't know how long, week, be really careful, really, really careful about communication. I, I, I was gonna say, honestly, I mean, our lives can't really, we can't afford it in some cases, but this is a great time to lay low. I mean, we're still dealing with the aftermath of this Charlie Kirk thing, which is, it's just getting started. We're just starting to see the, the division and using Charlie Kirk and his unaliving to move the needle, to move the plan forward. Let's just call a spade a spade. Yeah, I would lay low. I would definitely, when the sun is in that torn decan, it can be really good to work and try to get things done. So I would say less chatter and more kind of nose to the grindstone stuff. And then if you keep your head down and you focus long enough, this is heavy weather. We talk about how storms brew. This is an astrological storm of gale force proportion that's brewing up here. So batten down the hatches, lay low, but more importantly, be very circumspect about what you're communicating, how you communicate. You cannot redo or undo the things that you said. So if there are things that you can talk with somebody professionally about, you can do that. Because I do feel like there are certain things that you probably want to share or you get off your chest. But I'd be very, very circumspect about who and how and why and when I share, period. And that's getting into the odd. That's that Venus in conjunct with Neptune. Things can and will be used against you in court of absurdity. Okay. Why don't we get into our story here? And let's banner up. By the way, thank you all for being here. If you like the show, hit like, subscribe. We do this Tuesday through Thursday. If you're new, welcome. Okay. So our True Hemp Science star of the day is Mickey Rourke. Let's do a little, let's get him up here on the screen. Okay, Mickey Rourke. There are two versions of Mickey Rourke's chart. This is a C-rated version. There was another that somebody rectified. I tend to think that this version is probably the correct one, or at least close to correct, and I'll tell you why when I get there. This is a chart. Again, we were looking at Henry Ford II's chart a couple weeks ago. But before I do that, let me just talk about True Hemp Science before we go. I'm going to flash my True Hemp Science ticker. And by the way, Chris is nominated yet again for Best CBD in Austin Fit Magazine. And there are some other people that have been nominated. We'll wait till the voting starts. We'll tell you who those people are. And you can vote for them as well. But True Hemp Science, which was the winner last year, Best CBD shop in Austin Fit, is your one-stop shop for all things CBD. And It's really funny. When we were at the show on Saturday, we found a couple that was their jam, doing what Chris does. And I can tell you that after sampling some of their wares and sampling Mr. Chris's, like the Moonlight gummies. See, I've got all the props right here. The Moonlight gummies, not close. Not close. And they were nice people, and the product was decent, but not as good as this. So you get what you pay for. And this is an old adage, but it's true. And what you're going to get when you pay for Chris's CBD is some of the best organically sourced CBD that you can find. And all you got to do to get your goodie bag, which is an order within an order, is type 15MINS. And you will get that when you order. It's like, oh, look what I got. Oh, what is this? Oh, look at that. You get at least 3 of those. And you get your order, and you're getting product that is going to improve the quality of your life. And if you don't believe me, ask somebody in chat. Why don't you just ask Mr. Tom Jordan? Tom has I would say, a very good relationship with Chris on the CBD side of things. And CBD is natural, it's legal. They can't even outlaw it here in the state of Texas, even though they tried. It's actually more popular in California. And the reason why, it's because the benefits of the CBD are evident. And you don't have to get like wiped out. You don't have to get super high. But there are some blends here where it will alter your consciousness a bit. And alter your consciousness in a more clear and kind of profound way. Chris likes to use the word lifted, and I would agree with that. Anyway, $150 gets you free shipping, and there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. All right, let's go to Mickey Rourke. So Mickey, I look at this chart, I'm like, how does he become a famous actor? Everything's below the horizon, with the exception of Jupiter, which is in the 12th house. Everything is below the horizon. He's got the true node in Aquarius in the 9th. But that's it. This is the chart of somebody who theoretically should be like involved in flipping houses. Well, I'm serious. If Mickey Rourke just flipped houses, his life would have been better in many, many ways. He's got Sun and Mercury in the 4th house, trying Jupiter in Taurus retrograde in the 12th. Taurus is assets, money. Like if you need to go to the bank, you can go to the bank, get money to fund your projects. And the restoration and the flipping is that retrograde part with Jupiter. Like that's what Mickey Rourke should have done. Instead, he became an actor, boxer, actor, boxer, and became the poster child for bad plastic surgery. So I think this chart is right because of Gemini rising. It's like he starts off in life with one face, and then he's another face. It's very weird. It's interesting to note that he was born in 1952, which is the year of the dragon, and that's a movie by Michael Cimino that he stars in, Year of the Dragon. And he plays a racist cop in Chinatown. And a lot of people think I've never seen it. A lot of people think it's one of his better movies. And Cimino actually managed to make a pretty taut Hollywood sort of crime drama. But he has like 2 faces. He's got the Mickey face and then what we're living with now, right? And when he came out, he had so much charisma. I mean, I can see the acting with Saturn, Venus, Neptune in the fifth. People who have loaded fifth houses can be good actors. Mars is the highest planet in this chart, and it's in the sixth house, Sagittarius. There's a restlessness there. I'd say our friend Mickey had a bit of a temper with that Mercury square with Mars. So he was a boxer. He worked at a Mars profession. You feel me? Where he gets into real trouble in this chart is the Pluto Moon conjunction right here on the fourth house cusp, squaring Jupiter. So I had developed a bit of a relationship, friendship, and I still need to get back with Carrie Otis. And Carrie was married to Mickey, and I read Carrie's book. I had Carrie on my show. And Mickey was a complete control freak with her. Here's where you get your Pluto Moon conjunction. So when Mickey would go off and do a movie, let's say it was The Marlboro Man. Wasn't that with Don Johnson, I think? He would leave his goons behind. Mickey had boys, right? He had his boys, and they were kind of biker mob kind of hybrid dudes, and they would follow Carrie Otis everywhere she went. Everywhere. He was insanely jealous, right, and wanted to control everything, like the green-eyed monster right here. You can see it here too, with Venus, Neptune, and then the square with Uranus. Conventional relationships not for Mickey Rourke. They're just not. This guy was not built for a conventional relationship at all. So, there were these horror stories where Carrie Otis is Persephone and Mickey Rourke is the Lord of the Underworld, right? And she literally has to climb out of the underworld and eventually divorce him. And that's how she reclaims her soul. That's her Persephone story. You can actually see it in her chart. But that Moon-Pluto conjunction and then the square with Jupiter is just amplifying everything. Jupiter is not always the benefic that people would like it to be. Sometimes it just makes other things bigger, especially at that square angle. So if you're dealing with some kind of deep insecurity, like it feels to me like Mickey Rourke was abandoned somewhere in his life. Where's his Chiron? His Chiron, yeah, he's got abandonment issues. Seventh house. And he's got that square with Chiron and Saturn, Venus. Right there. So whatever happened prior to Carrie Otis was the thing that drove Mickey to insane jealousy. And he'd have to, now he'd just have Ring cameras or who knows what. But if you haven't read Carrie Otis's book, I highly recommend it. It's called Beauty Interrupted. And it's a really, really compelling story. So, Carrie was with him in the, what was that movie? The Zalman King movie. It's not Wild Poems. What is it? It's kind of a skin flick. Mickey had done 8.5 weeks with Kim Basinger. And so they wanted to do a follow-up. And so they cast Carrie Otis, who was a supermodel. And then he got involved with her. He wanted her for the movie because he wanted to be with her. And that's how these guys rolled back in the day. If there was a supermodel and they liked them, they would find out who their agent was, and they would try to get them to come see them, and get them involved in the project, because they wanted them. That's how they started their relationship. And Carrie had never acted before. Anyway, I'm just telling you, this Moon Pluto conjunction, square Jupiter. You would think that this is a tough guy, no fear, lots of fears, lots and lots of fears, lots of fears. I wonder how his digestion is. And what's interesting is that the Moon is in Virgo and Pluto's in Leo, so they're conjunct, but they're in completely different elements, different signs. And he's got that temper. He's got that square with Mercury, Mars, Sun. More Mercury, Mars than Sun, Mars. But that's a bad temper, especially Mars. Like if it was Mars and Pisces, I don't know, square Mercury and Gemini, probably just a heroin addict or something. But this is definitely verging on violence, or at least violent words. It's too bad. The guy had so much promise, so much charisma. You know, he really, when he starts to act and comes on the scene, it's like, who is this guy? He was in Body Heat, and he plays an arson in Body. He kind of steals the movie a little bit. And he's got William Hurt, but he's the guy that's the arsonist. And he kind of steals the movie. And then he plays Boogie in that ensemble movie with Steve Guttenberg and all those other dudes, Paul Reiser, Daniel Stern. I believe Barry Levinson directed it. It's a really good movie. He plays Boogie, and that kind of cements him as being like the next guy. And he had 20 years to start right in front of him. He couldn't handle it. Uranus in the second house also. Not easy to deal with. Anyway, somehow he managed. Maybe it's that Mars and Sag, the fighter, the boxer, the wrestler, the man who's tormented, all twisted up inside. Okay, there you go. That's our star of the day, Mickey Rourke, and that's it for the Astro Weather. Thank you all for being here. I'll be over on 15 minutes of flame, and that'll happen in about 10 minutes. Hopefully someone put the link in, and that's over on Rumble. So come join us. I'll give you some insight as to what's going on post Charlie Kirk, and you might be surprised. Hopefully you'll be entertained at the very least. There's a chance you may be a little shocked. All right, take care. Take care of yourselves. Treat each other well. Love you all. God bless. Bye.